So what we're going to take a look at now is validating our password so that we don't end up with this 500 internal server error. And let's go to our register handler and take a look at our validator for our password. Now we can do this actually just using Fluent Validation, because what we can do is chain on additional validators to this. And what we can do is say, after the not empty, we can specify a minimum length, and we can specify this as 6. We can then add a matches validator, and this takes a regular expression. So we'll specify matches, and then we'll add an expression inside here that says A to Z, which means we must have a capital letter inside here. And then we can say with message and say password must contain one uppercase letter. And we can also do the same for the minimum length as well and give it our own custom message. So we'll say with message and say password must be at least 6 characters. And we're going to start to get very busy inside here by adding chaining on all of these different regular expressions here along with their messages. So what we can do instead is we can take out these rules into an extension method on the iRule builder, which is part of Fluent Validation, just to keep things tidy. And we could also make this reusable so that anywhere we use a password that requires complexity, we can reuse this particular extension method anywhere we like. So let's see how we can do this. And I'm just going to go into the application and just create a new folder inside here and just call it validators. And inside here I'm going to create a new class and just call it validator extensions.cs. And because this is going to be an extension method, we need to make the class static, because we're not going to be instantiating a new version of this class anywhere. And what we'll do then is we'll create a public static, and then we'll use iRule builder. And this takes 2 type parameters. One's a generic type, and the other one's a string. And then we specify the name of the validator. In this case, this is going to be password. And we also give this a type parameter. And inside the parameters for this particular method, we want to say this iRule builder, and this is the class we're adding the extension method to, and we need to bring this in from Fluent Validation. And then our iRule builder takes the same parameters that we've specified here, so it's going to be t and string, and we'll call this rule builder. And inside here what we'll do is we'll say var options equals rule builder, and then we can start chaining on our Fluent Validation rules, and we can start saying not empty and matches, etc. So I'm just going to go to my register method and just cut what I currently have inside here for my password and just paste this inside the extension method. And I'll just reformat these to make it a bit clearer. And for our matches, we've still got our uppercase requirement, and what we also need is a lowercase requirement. So we'll say matches and then specify lowercase a to z, and then specify with message password must have at least 1 lowercase character. And then we'll add another matches, because we also need to contain a number in our complex password. So we'll specify 0 to 9 and say with message and specify password must contain a number And then what we want to do is make sure that the password contains a non-alphanumeric character. And we can do that by using the caret and then specifying all the things that is not either A to Z lowercase, A to Z uppercase, and 0 to 9. And I need to put this inside square brackets. And we'll specify with message and say password must contain non-alpha numeric. And then we can just return the options in this case. And now when we go back to our register method, what we should see is our password as a validator that we can add to our field. And in the rule for password, I'm just going to say .password. And we'll need to bring in our extension, so using application validators. And if we hover over this, the command is being passed in as our type parameter there, which we get from our abstract validator. And then our password is a string. And this should now validate against our rules inside our password validator. And there's just one more thing actually we've missed inside here, and that's our email address. We also want to make sure this is a valid email address as well. So what we'll do, we'll just chain on an additional validator for the email address and just specify the email address. And this will make sure that we can't send up a non-email address as our email. So with these rules in place, what we can do is we can go back and test that our new validator is functioning correctly. So let's just go back to Postman. And what we'll do is we'll just send this same request again. And this time we get our validators and we've got the errors and password must contain one uppercase, must contain a number, must contain non-alphanumeric. And if I just start making a few changes, then we'll start to see that the validation messages change. And if I change the L to a capital L and send again, then password must contain non-alphanumeric. And if I change the 1 to a $, and send, then we get the password must contain a number. And let's also just take out the @test.com, or just the .com in fact, just to make sure that we also validate against the email address here as well. And if I click send, then we get the error about the email not being a valid email address. So that's all good as well. So before we finish this section, what we also want to be able to do is get our currently logged in user. And to do that, we're going to need to fish out the username from the token that we send up with every request. And we'll take a look at how we can do that next.